I didn't kill her physically, but in the back of my mind, she died. When word first hit the block that 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body got discovered, all decomposed in David's Tesla, no one believed him. But the feds just confirmed new evidence that clears David's name in the homicide case. And the new name they mentioned will change everything you thought you knew about this case. When the streets started talking and the evidence got real. Here's the thing that most folks missed while they was busy getting their posts off about David. The actual evidence. Man, that's telling a whole different story than what went viral on your timeline. Let me run this back to September 8, 2025, when this whole situation kicked off. Workers at Hollywood Tow on North Mansfield Avenue started smelling something foul coming from this black 2023 Tesla Model 3 that had just been brought in a few days earlier. The whip had been sitting abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for damn near 3 weeks to a whole month before it got towed. Just posted up on public streets in one of LA's most bougie neighborhoods where folks don't usually let cars sit like that. When LAPD rolled up around 12:30 p.m. that day and popped open the front trunk, what Tesla owners called the frunk, they found severely decomposed human remains, wrapped up in a black plastic bag weighing about 71 lb. Shorty was in such bad condition that it took another 9 days until September 17, 2025, for the authorities to officially confirm the victim was Celeste Rivas Hernandez through dental records, DNA testing, and a distinctive etched tattoo on her right index finger. Now, peep this, because this is where the narrative gets real interesting and where paying attention to the facts becomes crucial as hell. While the Tesla was definitely registered to David, the 20-year-old artist was actively on his Wii World Tour when the body got discovered. Performing in cities all across North America, my mans had been on the road for weeks with documented performances and public appearances that created a whole verifiable timeline of where he was at. Let's keep it a buck about Celeste herself, because her story is heartbreaking and complicated in ways that got lost in all the drama. Celeste Rivas Hernandez got reported missing on April 5, 2024, from her crib in Lake Elsinore, California, when Shorty was only 13 years old. But this wasn't her first time dipping out. She had run away from home multiple times throughout 2024, including on February 14th, 15th at March 19th, and April 5th. What makes this real relevant to understanding what really went down is that Riverside County Sheriff's deputies got called to her family's spot 11 times between February 2024 and April 2025, mostly for minor crime investigations and suspicious circumstances. Her ex-boyfriend said Shorty was dealing with a troubled home life, painting a picture of a young girl going through it with some real difficult circumstances that went way deeper than just one relationship or situation. The internet, of course, had already made up its mind before getting all the facts. Matching tattoos. Sus as hell. Photos together. That's it. He's guilty. A leaked song supposedly titled Celeste. Case closed. Lock him up. But let's examine what law enforcement actually said. And, more importantly, what they didn't say. LAPD Captain Scott M. Williams came out and explicitly stated, "We know for sure that Celeste Rivas Hernandez died and someone placed her body in the front trunk area of David Burke's Tesla." But peep what he added, "Fam, that it remains unclear whether there is any criminal culpability beyond someone concealing the body." This right here is crucial, real talk. After weeks of investigating, David has never been named as a suspect, never been arrested, and has been cooperating fully with the authorities. His people confirmed to multiple news outlets that David has been informed about what's happened, and although he is still out on tour, he is fully cooperating with the authorities. But perhaps the most significant piece of information came from forensic experts who've been analyzing the case. Dr. Amy Santoro, a forensic scientist and former CSI with a whole PhD, publicly stated that investigators believe Celeste's death resulted from a drug overdose based on preliminary autopsy findings showing no signs of trauma. In her breakdown, Santoro noted that if toxicology confirms this theory, David would likely not face homicide charges, as the focus would shift away from intentional foul play. Think about what that really means, fam. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office deferred the cause and manner of death. noting no pregnancy and significant decomposition that prevented them from immediately determining how she passed. Without a confirmed homicide classification, the case exists in a legal gray area that fundamentally challenges the whole murder narrative that was running wild on social media. Criminal defense attorney Alexandra Kazarian kept it real in a News Nation interview, straight up asserting there was no evidence against this man for any crime, despite all the circumstantial connections like the vehicle and the alleged relationship. She noted LAPD's cautious approach, holding back details because of insufficient information. Let's address the elephant in the room, the tea everybody been spilling, the speculation about their relationship. Yeah, Celeste's moms told TMZ that her daughter had mentioned dating someone named David. Yeah, they appeared to share a tattoo. Yeah, there were photos and alleged Discord messages floating around. But here's what often gets overlooked when folks is gossiping. David's manager, Josh Marshall, who was the one leasing that Hollywood Hills property where David would sometimes crash, stated he had zero knowledge of any events and worked remotely with minimal interaction with his clients. The timeline itself presents major problems for folks convinced David is guilty. No cap. The Tesla was sitting abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for approximately 3 weeks before it got towed on or around September 3, 2025. During this whole period, David was documented as being on tour, performing in multiple cities. Neighbors been saying the whip was sitting in the area since as early as mid-August, well before anybody discovered what was really going on. The decomposition of Celeste's remains, estimated at 4 weeks old when they found her, suggests Shorty had been deceased for a minute. This detail becomes critical when you consider where David was actually at and who else might have had access to his whip. The investigation gets deep and the evidence stacks up. As the investigation kept pushing through September 2025, what became increasingly clear wasn't the certainty of David's guilt that everybody on social media was so pressed about, but rather the complexity of a case involving a troubled teenager, a vehicle that multiple people could access, and a cause of death that remained elusive as hell to forensic experts. On September 17, 2025, LAPD's Robbery-Homicide Division ran up on the Hollywood Hills rental home on the 1300 block of Daney Place with a search warrant, a property that was being leased by David's manager, Josh Marshall, for approximately $20,000 per month since February 2024. Detectives searched for blood evidence, including checking drains for traces and seized electronics, like a laptop for forensic analysis. But here's where it gets interesting, fam. Just days after the raid on September 24, 25, the lease got abruptly terminated and the whole spot got cleared out. The homeowner, Miladin Trifunovic, confirmed that Marshall hit him up saying they was breaking the lease and dipping by week's end, though he emphasized that when the lease was originally signed in February 2024, everything was regular and there wasn't no issues at the time. This quick exit fueled even more speculation online, with mad people interpreting it as evidence that somebody had something to hide. But consider the alternative explanation. Real talk. When your client's crib gets raided in connection with a high-profile death investigation, and the media circus done set up camp outside, continuing to live there becomes impossible, regardless of whether you innocent or guilty. The property had external security cameras that could potentially provide evidence, though the owner stated he couldn't access footage without tenant permission or a warrant. Let's talk about what forensic science can and cannot tell us in situations like this, because it's crucial. The advanced decomposition of Celeste's remains, her body weight dropped to approximately 71 pounds due to decay, significantly complicated the investigation. Forensic expert Amy Santoro broke it down that investigators suspect a drug overdose based on autopsy results showing no trauma, which would fundamentally change the whole nature of the case from murder to potentially tragic accidental death or misadventure. Michael, a situation that you actually caught us up on last week involving the pop singer David and Celeste Rivas, who's the 17-year-old and her body was discovered, if memory serves, in the trunk of a Tesla that was found in a rental car lot in California. Yeah, and even more tragic, she was 15 now, and when she went missing, she was only 13 years old. She went missing in April of 2024. The absence of trauma is significant as hell, fam. In cases where somebody gets murdered violently, bodies typically show evidence of how they died. Strangulation leaves marks on the neck. Blunt force trauma leaves fractures, stabbing or shooting leaves characteristic wounds. The lack of such evidence, combined with the deferred determination of cause of death pending toxicology, suggests a scenario way different from the violent murder many folks assumed went down. Consider Celeste's background more carefully, 'cause it's important. She was anxious. I've heard that she's real. And, as you are aware, I extended my hand to him. Because I am real. Yes, I made contact with him, my friend. I got to know his mother, and she's a nice woman, dude. And it reminds me of what my mom was going through, bro, when I see them like that. But with Mariah now going against Melly, things have gotten even worse. Due in part to YNW Bortland's current support for the prosecution, the trial was postponed. Melly will be tried with Bortland in the upcoming trial, according to the judge. Henry's trial with this demon is scheduled for September 10th at 9 hours, barring any additional motions I may hear. I'm currently involved in another capital case. I still have 4 dates available for hearings before September 10th. I provided those 4 dates to the parties, and I'm keeping all of those times and dates available to these 2 defendants alone. Thus, anything. Judge Martin Feige announced during a hearing that Bortland and Mellier's trials will now take place concurrently. Melly is suffering since he and Bortland are no longer communicating at all. They are not allowed to communicate at all, not even through attorneys, due to a no communication order. It's possible that the prosecution hopes Bortland will testify against Melly. Together, you can attempt them. The state will profit from trying them jointly. It's simply more effective. It eliminates the need for repetitive tasks. You have a better chance of getting them to implicate one another throughout the trial if you do it all at once. Severing it helps the defense. In this manner, they can blame one another and escape punishment. Thus, this is the situation. However, since the state is pursuing a penalty for Melly, I don't believe it should be immediately dismissed because the trial's penalty phase is the only one that would differ. Not the stage of guilt. The period of guilt is the same. Both of them are capital offenses. It's one that you want penalized, not the other. However, that leads into the trial's second phase. The penalty phase only in the event that Melly is convicted. Bortland may not want to accept responsibility and serve a life sentence if he is aware that he did not commit the crime. He might blame Melly for this, similar to how Mellier's attorneys accused him during the initial trial. The two haven't communicated since. He was lying about such things. When Cortland Henry arrives at Memorial Hospital Meyer, you won't see him sitting there. Instead, you'll see him sitting in the driver's seat of a car that has 2 bodies inside. He also has powder residue on his hands, which indicates that he fired a gun. He also tells lies. He tells a falsehood about the location of the occurrence. He tells falsehoods about how it happened. He also makes up the claim that he doesn't have the phone. I believe it was Miss Bradley, not Cortland Henry, who stated that everyone has a phone in their pocket. Mellier's attorney claimed that Bortland had gunpowder on his hands and had lied to the police during the initial trial. Additionally, he claimed that Bortland was the final person with Juvie and Sackchaser before they died. To clarify the evidence against Bortland, they even brought in a forensic specialist. Thus, Portland's right hand Henry had 2 two-component particles and 0 residue-like particles. And 1 residue-like particle and 1 two-component particle were found in the left hand. All right, and what does that signify in your opinion? Basically, the hands had residue on them generally. That did not sit well with Bortland. Following the judge's announcement of a mistrial, Bortland tweeted, "Mind games don't work on people like me," with an emoji of a handshake as if he were making a deal. The fact that investigators discovered stuff in his house is much more concerning. On the basis of an out-of-count warrant, co-defendant Y.W. Bortland was arrested and sent to a Miami jail on Monday night. We have verified that the warrant for witness tampering is outside of Broward County. Long Crime Network received the following warrant. Cortland Henry, also known as Bortland, and others unlawfully and deliberately engaged in deceptive behavior toward another person on or around April 10, 2023, through and including July 22, 2023, with the intention of causing or inducing them to conceal testimony. The alleged witness had been summoned by the legal process to the jury trial of Jamal Demons, aka Y.W. Melly, the warrant adds. The warrant's dates are crucial. Melly's jury selection began in mid-April, and on July 22nd, the day the warrant alleges Portland tampered with the witness, a judge declared a mistrial. He wrote notes after seeing the jurors throughout the trial, which they discovered. The juror's appearance was described in the notes. This occurred just before Melly's attorneys began blaming him. He appeared to be preparing to attack the jurors in the event that they found him guilty. Be honest, this is careless. How are you going to keep the jurors' notebooks in your home, Portland? Holy! Come on, like it's similar to having the surveillance tape in your DVD player or anything similar. Do you understand? Like, hurry up, dude. For example, your crib is raided, and your DVD player contains the surveillance footage. Oh, okay, they say. I'm grateful, brother. You can't have this at your crib. Prosecutors may find it easier to explain what transpired just 3 hours after the crime if Portland is on their side. At that point, Melly and Portland were seen dancing in a parking lot on camera as if nothing had happened. Despite the events of this early morning, Melly continued to spin. He's still really optimistic out there. Get still. Hey, no matter what happened, the dog continued to spin. You're aware already. Melly, leaving the studio early, getting into the Jeep's back left seat, and waiting for the others to get in could also be explained by this. Music, please pardon me. Can you see? Indeed. Okay. Music. According to court documents, Melly was seated in the back left seat when the rounds were fired. Given that Juvie's mother attested to his presence, this makes him appear extremely guilty. Could you tell the jurors your complete name? My name is Leon. All right. And in this instance, are you related to anyone? I am, indeed, from his mother. And who is that? Thomas Christopher. Did you witness the people getting into that large gray vehicle, Miss Phillips? Indeed. Where did your son get into that gray Jeep, do you know? Indeed. Which jury seat, if you can identify it? He took the right-hand back seat, I believe. Did you recognize the person who climbed into the rear driver's side seat on the left? Indeed. And who was that person? Jeanette. I now want to know if you believe Melly is guilty or innocent. If you're a fan of YNW Melly, please like this and leave a comment.